Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this session, we are going to see how to use Mongo database using Spring Boot framework. So we will cover all these four endpoints: save API, update, delete, and the get API. So let's get started. To begin with, you have to visit Start Spring IO website, and I have choose this Maven project Java language using 3.5.5. Fill out the required details. The following dependencies are required: Spring Web, Spring Data, MongoDB, and Lombok. Make sure when you select these dependencies, you are selecting the Spring Data MongoDB, because there are too many dependencies in the name of MongoDB. So choose the right one. Okay, and then once you do that, generate that, extract it, and open in your IntelliJ. So I have already opened this application, and I have added these details, uh, which is nothing but like what is the database name that I'm going to use for this application: localhost 27017. In case if you are deploying into a different server or you have a database on the remote, make sure you put the IP address and the correct port number. Okay, so to begin with, I will start with a couple of packages I want to create. Like one is for controller, then I will create one package for services, one package for entities, one package for repositories. This is just to segregate how you want to maintain your project. So controller is nothing but the first entry point of your application. So let me call it as user controller. Okay, so I'm going to define with annotation risk controller, and I want to use this as request mapping of test. Okay, and we are going to start with save operation. So I will use the post mapping, and let me name it as save. Okay, so public, I am going to use user class, and then what I need to do, add user, and in input I'm going to get that same stuff: request body, user, and user. And this object we haven't created yet. Let me create it inside the folder entities. So what is this user? It's an object that we are going to save it into the database. Okay, so user I will create this as document, which is nothing but for MongoDB, like how we defined at the rate of entity, right? For MySQL table or relational database, right? Like the JPA, how it handles. Similarly, for MongoDB, you have to define at the rate of document, and inside that you have to put the collection name. Collection name is nothing but table name. So I'm going to define user inside. So what detail I'm going to have it here: private. I'm going to have ID, private. I'm going to have name, and private string of gender. I'm going to keep these details for now. So ID will be my unique column, so I will define it at the rate of ID. And then for these variables, I'm going to create getter and setters. Okay, generate getter and setters. So this will generate the getter and setters. So the same class we have to import here. Maybe you can have a different input here, but I'm using the same class here. Now I have to create a new service class where we can keep the business logic. Okay, and I have to define this as service class, and in the service class again I'm going to have the same stuff: public, user, add user method. I'm gonna take that input as user, and I need to create one more interface in repository. Okay, it should be user repository. So this repository will help us to perform the database operation. So Mongo repository, inside that you have to define user, and then the data type of that table will be string. Okay, let me import that class as well, and here I have to put the repository annotation. So this repository annotation is extending this Mongo repository so that you can perform save, find all, update, delete, all those things. Why? because we have to use it inside the service class. That's why I have created that class private user repository. Okay, now with the help of repository I'm going to save that user repository dot save. You see this, there is no method I have defined here, but with the help of this Mongo repository I'll be able to get that save operation. I'm going to save it. So when I'm getting that detail, there will be no unique ID will be generated, so I have to generate that user dot set id. All other detail will remain same in this object, and it will be saved here. So I'm gonna create uuid for random id, okay, to string. So unique id will be created when the new records are getting inserted. So let me call the same service method here. Let me do auto wiring for that. Auto wiring means it's a dependency injection, so these components will be maintained by the Spring Boot application. So private user services, okay, and in return I'm going to have user services dot add user, same method whatever I have called there. So as you can see, I have started this user controller class, the entry point. So first it will check the API, test slash save, it will reach here. The user service class will be called. If you want to have some kind of validation, you can put it here, because this service class is responsible for the business logic. Then I'm calling the repository interface, not the class. So which is again extending the Mongo repository for this entity class, user class, and I'm defining this string is the id column of this user table. Okay, if you have integer or long, you have to define it here properly. That's how the id works for finding the elements. Now once I have done all those things, make sure you have the following properties in application. And here I am running a docker, which is helping me to run this MongoDB. If you want to install it, I mean standalone, you can do that. Let me check this. I have this database tutorial and the collection name is user. So similarly I have defined database name is tutorial and the collection name is user. So let me run this application. Okay, and so in Postman as well I have defined localhost 8080, because the application will start on 8080. And then if you see my controller class, I have the mapping test slash save, test slash save, and in the raw detail I'm sending as a JSON. So I'm passing this Abdul and mail these details. Okay, let me send it now. Before that, let me show you it is empty. Okay, where is the postman? Yeah, let me hit this. Yeah, as you can see, this new record is created with 8015 ESED. Let me check that. So whenever you hit this records, a new ID will be generated randomly. So the same can be reflected here. Okay. So likewise, you can perform the save operation with the help of Spring Boot framework or Mongo database. Okay. So similarly, we'll see now the update API, delete API, and get API. Okay. Now I'm going to use put mapping for performing the update operation. Okay. And I will copy the same stuff. Instead of add user, I'm gonna put it as update user. Similarly, in services I have to define update user, but here when you perform update user, you should not set the id. Instead you have to find the detail. Okay, so the same user object cannot be used here, so I have to take a repository and then I have to find the element of it. Find by id, you see there is a method here, and you need to pass that user dot id. So in save we didn't say share any details, but here we have to use like that. So the return type is optional of user. Okay, make sure you import that class, and I'm going to check if user one is present. If that record is present, then let me perform this update operation. Okay, so this is input object, this is finding object. Okay, so in finding object only I have to set those details. So I'm going to set the new updates. Similarly, user1 dot get of set of name dot user get of name. If both details are there, then perform this update. Okay, if in case if it doesn't there, uh, you can return it as null, which means the data is not updating. Okay, so similarly, call this method from the controller class. Instead of add user, you call it as update user. Now let me rerun this program. So in Postman, I am going to create this duplicate tab. I have to make it as put. I have to change the save as update endpoint, and here I have to pass this input. If I don't pass the input, it will not find the record. Let me show you. Now the application is up and running. So let me hit this test update internal server error. It says the given ID must not be null. Okay, because to perform the update operation, you need to have an ID, because the error is thrown by the find by ID element. Okay, so let me add that here. Okay, now I have added the ID. I'm going to change it to testing and female. Okay, before I perform that, let me show you this record 801, I mean 409 is Abdul Mail. Okay, now let me hit this API. As you can see, now this is got updated here in the response. Let me check in the DB. So the same details has been updated. So now we have covered the update API. So let me see how we can implement the same stuff for get API. I mean delete API. Okay. For that, I'm going to use delete mapping slash delete slash ID, because I need to pass that public string delete user, and I need to get that request uh, param. Okay, it will be like string of id. Okay, user service dot delete user, we have to pass that. So similarly, we have to create one more method in the service class. Let me copy this logic, and this delete also can be done only when you have that record in the table. Okay, so same find by id, and instead of updating the details, you have to call delete. For save and update, both are, we will be calling the save interface only. For delete, we have to call the delete element. And yeah, so when you do delete, it is not going to give you an object. Instead, I have defined it as string. So after the delete, I will say deleted successfully, user not found. In case if I'm not able to return here, if the data does not exist, it will come to this line and it will say user not found. So let me go back here. Required type is user, delete of, yeah, this one I have to change, string of id, the same I have to define here, string by id, this id, and I have to delete this user. Okay, now let me rerun this application. So let's try the delete operation now. Let me go back to Postman, duplicate this. Instead that put, I have to use the delete one. Uh, I'm gonna use delete slash id. For that, I'm going to take this id there is nothing is required in the body for delete mapping. So the application is up and running. Let me run this. It says bad request. So the bad request comes because of this URL mapping. In case of integer, we can put numbers that will be easily understandable. So we'll go with the same approach, like with the request body itself, we will go. Instead of passing here, we will pass directly into the body itself. So let's keep the API similar to create an update, because this is a string params, right? So it's not a good approach. So I'm gonna use the same request body here, and the same user object I'm going to pass it here, and similarly the user object here as well. So user dot get id, I'm going to get it, and here I have to change it to user. Okay, so let me rerun the application. So the application is running now. So let me try now. As you can see, this data is deleted successfully. Let me check on the MongoDB side. Now we have 3 records. Let me refresh. It shows 2 records now. Now let me try with the same ID. It should give me an error. User not found, because this ID does not exist on the database side. So now we have seen the delete mapping. Okay. Now we'll use get mapping. Get mapping. Okay. Public. Instead of, now I have to get all the users, right? So get all. I'm not going to pass any input. Return user service dot get all. So let me import this list. With the help of user repository, I'm going to find all. So this will return me all the users that are available in the on that particular collection. Okay. If you want to get it only specific user, again you can go for this find by id and pass that particular id by gathering that request body, and you can get it if you want, or you can achieve it with the help of parameters. Like on the URL itself, you can pass the id and you can get the specific user. So I'm gonna get it all the details. So let me try that. So let me duplicate this tab. Now I have to use the get mapping test of get. That is what I have defined. So in body, I don't need anything here. Let me send this. As you can see, I got 2 records. So let me add few more records just for testing purpose. So I have created 3 more new records. So let me hit that API. You can see I'm getting 5 records. Similarly on database as well, you can see the new 5 records have been created. So likewise, you can achieve the CRUD operation, like save, update, delete, using the Spring Boot framework. Okay, make sure you have the proper dependencies defined uh, while you generate the basic skeleton of this project. I hope this session was clear for you. If you like this video, please like and do share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.